Today is our third Sunday, continuing our look at great peacemakers, true stories from around the world. Both of our peace leaders this morning are well known, Mother Teresa and Thich Nhat Hanh. We hope you enjoy learning more about these leaders this morning. Much of the dialogue about the leaders is taken directly from the book. Hailed as one of the most tireless and effective spiritual social activists since Mohandas Gandhi, Vietnamese Zen Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh cultivates inner peace while working for world peace. Leading one of the great nonviolent resistance movements of the 20th century and nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize by Dr. Martin Luther King, this gentle leader holds that a key to world peace is the practice of being peace. Born in 1926 in central Vietnam, Thich Nhat Hanh began his quest for inner peace early. When I was 9, I saw on the cover of a magazine an image of the Buddha sitting peacefully on the grass. Right away, I knew that I wanted to be peaceful and happy like that. Eagerly, Thich Nhat Hanh became a monk when he was just 16 years old and, by the age of 30, had founded his own monastery and co-founded what became the most renowned Buddhist institute in Vietnam, An Quan. Sadly, when the Vietnam War encroached upon their monastery, Thich Nhat Hanh and his fellow monks were forced to evacuate for their safety. Fortunately, from the fire of war rose the phoenix of a new social dimension of Buddhism, which Thich Nhat Hanh called engaged Buddhism. The brown-robed monk explained, "When the warplanes came and dropped bombs around us, we heard the sounds of our people crying out in pain and anguish. There were wounded children and destroyed houses and refugees to take care of. We could not ignore them and just sit quietly in our meditation halls. We had to go out and help, but we knew we would become exhausted if we did these things without also nurturing our own spirit. We used the teachings of the Buddha about self-protection and self-healing in our own personal practice and then took them out in the world. This was engaged Buddhism in its purest form." Engaged Buddhism caught on quickly. Thich Nhat Hanh traveled to the U.S. hoping to inspire a change in U.S. policy regarding the war. Having seen much injustice and many of his friends and disciples killed in the war, he was understandably angry. But at that time, he said, I was already a practitioner, a solid practitioner. I was able to see that the real enemy of man is not man. The real enemy is our ignorance, discrimination, fear, craving, and violence. In his opinion, both sides in the war had succumbed to an incorrect policy, believing that violence was the way to solve our problems. Meeting with peace activists, dignitaries, and government officials, Thich Nhat Hanh voiced the feeling of many people on the ground when he said, "We do not care about anyone's victory or anyone's defeat. We just want the bombs to stop falling on us." Thich Nhat Hanh made such a positive impression on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that King nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize in 1967. Later, Thich Nhat Hanh led the Vietnamese Buddhist peace delegation to the Paris peace talks and rejoiced when the peace accords were finally signed. After helping to restore peace in his nation, however, Thich Nhat Hanh was kicked out of it. Maintaining a steadfast call for peace and refusing to take sides, he had enraged both the communist and anti-communist regimes and was banished from Vietnam. Settling in France, the exile longed to return home, but he eventually embraced his adopted homeland. Not forgetting the war victims, he worked to find homes for Vietnamese orphans and to rescue refugees in the Gulf of Siam, risking his own life, and as he and the refugees were, in his word, hunted and chased like animals. Nonetheless, their efforts aroused international attention and resulted in thousands of lives being saved. With growing public interest in his work, Thich Nhat Hanh established spiritual communities in the US and France. There, he sensed a particular need for inner peace, observing, "There is a kind of vacuum inside us, and we attempt to fill it by eating, reading, talking, smoking, drinking, watching TV, going to the movies, and even overworking. We absorb so much violence and insecurity every day that we are like time bombs ready to explode." From Thich Nhat Hanh's perspective, each person has within them both the seeds of peace and the seeds of violence. Which of these seeds grows? Well, that depends on which seed the person chooses to water. Many influences of contemporary society, he believed, nurture the seeds of violence. As a counterbalance, he teaches techniques intended to help people of all faiths water the seeds of peace. He explains, if we are peaceful, if we are happy, we can blossom like a flower, and everyone in our family, our entire society, will benefit from our peace. Referring to this approach as being peace, he elaborates, only by establishing peace in yourself can you be helpful in contributing to peace. Being peace is the basis for doing peace, making peace. Among many techniques for cultivating inner tranquility, Thich Nhat Hanh teaches breathing exercises, meditation, and mindful or conscious living. Further, he advocates deep listening, a method of calm, intentional communication designed to restore harmony between people in conflict. Thich Nhat Hanh explains, listening to someone with compassion can turn her into a friend. It may be that no one else has been able to listen to her. Perhaps you are the first one, capable of listening to her and giving her the relief she needs. You lose an enemy and you win a friend. Deep listening can facilitate communication on the international level as well, he believes, saying, citizens of various nations will feel that they are being understood. That can diffuse the bomb already. Thich Nhat Hanh has shared such techniques with students of various walks of life, including prison inmates, people in conflict, and American veterans of the Vietnam War. For example, leading special retreats for veterans, people who could have killed his own friends and relatives during the war, he listened deeply to their experiences of combat and the feelings of trauma and guilt that, decades later, still haunted them. With his gentle guidance and helpful techniques, many veterans found that their physical and emotional wounds began to heal and have since dedicated themselves to being peace. Just days after the World Trade Center tragedy on September 11th of 2001, Thich Nhat Hanh visited New York City and addressed an ecumenical congregation. Empathizing with the city's anguish, he advised against violent retaliation, saying that in the long run, violence would only bring more suffering to everyone involved. He said, I am not saying that someone who viciously attacks us should not be disciplined, but what is most important is that we first take care of the seeds of negativity in ourselves. Then, if someone needs to be helped or disciplined, we will do so out of compassion, not anger and retribution. Thich Nhat Hanh expressed this point again in Washington, D.C., practicing slow walking meditation on Capitol Hill and speaking to members of Congress. Using violence to suppress violence is not the correct way. Apparently, Han's peaceful manner inspired a change of heart in the leaders of his own nation as Vietnamese officials visited his communities in the U.S. and France and at last invited him to visit Vietnam. His long-held dream to return to his homeland finally came true in early 2005 when he and approximately 200 of his students enjoyed a 3-month tour of Vietnam, doing their best to practice peace with every step. They made their trip again in 2007. Rebuilding war-torn villages, finding homes for orphans, rescuing refugees, meeting with government officials, and writing over 100 books. That's how Thich Nhat Hanh continued his tireless efforts with some people half his age. How did he do that? How did he not get burned out and give up? He shares, it is because of the practice of meditation, stopping, calming, and looking deeply, that I have been able to nourish and protect the sources of my spiritual energy and continue this work. Slowly and resolutely, he literally walked his talk, working for a better tomorrow while appreciating the wonders of life today. He notes, children die of hunger, yet the sunrise is beautiful. The rose that bloomed this morning along the wall is a miracle. Life is both dreadful and wonderful. Thich Nhat Hanh showed that by being in touch with both aspects of life and nurturing the seeds of peace within ourselves, we can help humanity reap an abundant harvest of peace in the world and enjoy the steps along the way. In 2018, Thich Nhat Hanh returned to Vietnam to his root temple, Quan, where he lived until his death in 2022 at the age of 95. We will now see a few more famous quotes from Thich Nhat Hanh, followed by a song.
Till I wanna go as a river, not as a drop of water that is flowing harmony. Selfishness be surrender. I wanna go as a river, not as a drop of water. We learn to live mindfully, to be there for each other. Our friendship of spirituality, how wonderful to be able to see that we are all water, that we are all